Boyd can have my truck, he's good with cars. The land can divide my clothes. I hope the angels come get my soul. At the end of this life that I've been given, after the prayers and the bells have rung, I ain't afraid of where I'm going, what'll become of the songs I've sung. What'll become of the songs I've sung. Of land, I've never made too much with these two hands, except the sound that came from these old streams. But when that's who you are, that's everything. At the end of this life that I've been given, after the prayers and the bells have rung, I ain't afraid of where I'm going, what'll become of the songs I've sung. What'll become of the songs I've sung. Some folks get statues and some get shrines. Some get their names on buildings, some on signs. Some get their names on rivers, some in lights. Oh, but me, I got a show down the road tonight. At the end of this life that I've been given, after the prayers and the bells have rung, I ain't afraid of where I'm going, what'll become of the songs I've sung. At the end of this life that I've been given, after the prayers and the bells have rung, I ain't afraid of where I'm going, what'll become of the songs I've sung. Yeah, what'll become of the songs I've sung. What'll become of the songs I've sung.
All right, hope y'all are doing great today. Hope you enjoyed a little bluegrass. Today we're going to be talking about heuristics, like a new set of heuristics, as well as layout and flow. Before we do that, I just wanted to mention, please download the Weather Channel app on your phone. Please download the Weather Channel app on your phone. We're going to use that as an example today. The Weather Channel app. Please download it on your phone. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Announcements for today are: there will be a test on Friday. The test on Friday will open right at 11 a.m. It is on Gradescope, and it will close right at 12 or right at noon. So make sure you start it on time. It is open only from 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Friday. So just so you know, that's coming on Friday. The format is you will have to do a single design activity. So you'll be given a set of specifications on an app that you're supposed to make, and you will need to make it. It will not be on this week's material. There will be no live stream on Friday. You just need to go directly to Gradescope on Friday, directly to Gradescope. There will be no live stream. Directly to Gradescope and take your test on Friday from 11 to 12. We will do review on Wednesday. However, I anticipate a bunch of questions like I'm already starting to see in the chat here about the exam, so I wanted to take a minute to answer questions. Why don't you feel free to put them right here in Menti, because it's kind of easier and better to answer here on Menti. I'll start going through the ones in the chat though, of course. First question, will the test cover this week's material? Nope, the test does not cover this week's material. Somebody else asked, is there any live stream on Friday? Nope, no live stream. Just go directly to Gradescope, 11 a.m. on Friday. Somebody's asking, will you be available during that time? I mean, I'll be online and I'll be answering things via Slack. But again, I'll be also at an NSF meeting during that time. So, I'll be available, but it might take me a few seconds to answer you. There should be very few questions that you have during that. I mean, it's a single question design activity that you're going to need to go do. Somebody else in the chat is asking, no multiple choice questions or short answer for this test? No. This test will be simply a single design activity that you will need to complete within the hour. So I wanted to make sure that you had enough time to complete the activity. So I just made it a single activity, single design activity that you need to complete within the hour using pencils or paper and or software, whichever you want. Be making a mock-up. You can use pencils or paper, or you can use software. Somebody's asking, do I have a study guide or outline? No, of course, the slides are going to be your best resource for studying, and the thing that you're going to want to focus on is the 10 design heuristics. Those are the most important for sure. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to study for it in just a minute. And somebody is asking, so it's a single design and that's it? No other questions, written, multiple choice? That is right. It will be a single design. You'll have to turn in a design of an app, and there will be no other questions or multiple choice or anything like that. It will be you turn in a single design, which you have an hour to make. So somebody else is asking, will we get some specification requirements and then design a wireframe using that? Yes, you will get specifications, and then you'll design, I would say, more of a mock-up slash wireframe. I mean, these are similar things, right? I'd encourage you to make it more of a mock-up of the design, a little bit more detailed than a wireframe. But yeah, I mean, you can only take it so far. You'll only have an hour, of course. So you'll get specifications, and your job will be to translate that into a design and of an app. Somebody's asking, will it be a complete design or something like a mock-up? Like, will everything need to be fully fleshed out with color and style? So, it's a mock-up. I will encourage you to do at least a little bit of color and style, but that part will be optional. You're going to try and make it look as nice as you can within the constraints of the hour. So I understand that an hour is not a long time to do a design, and so the color and styling is optional, but just like anything that you turn in, you want it to look as nice as you can. So let's say you get through the kind of design and the layout and you get everything like you like it, and you have another 20 minutes, you might consider doing a little bit of styling just to make it look nicer. So again, I understand that it's just an hour, and I understand how long it takes to do these things. So I'm not requiring any color and style, but that's a nice to add thing if you have time. All right, I think that's all the questions on that. Now, in terms of how to study, here's what I would like to do. On Wednesday, I would like to have a review in this way. I'd like for I'd like to specify an app today, and then anybody that wants to, as long as we can get 4 people to do it, they would do the, like, wireframe out this app, just a basic version, something that you could do an hour or less. And then on Wednesday, I would go over these wireframes and give you feedback on these wireframes, and then that would give you a good idea of how I'm going to grade the exam itself. However, for this to work, I need at least 4 people that are willing to make wireframes between now and Wednesday. The advantage of doing this is basically you're practicing for the exam, and you're going to get feedback live in class. The disadvantage is you're going to be doing extra work, right? So here's let me tell you what the app is going to be, and then you guys can tell me in the chat whether you're up for this or not. I would like to see an app that is like a coffee ordering app for 7-Eleven. So like imagine 7-Eleven had a coffee ordering app where you could just order like several basic types of coffee, and then if you did so, then when you arrived, it would just be ready there to like pick up and go. And so just a basic app to order coffee from 7-Eleven that would then be ready and sitting on a counter when you arrive. So it's not a very big app, coffee ordering app for 7-Eleven. Do we have at least 4 people that would be willing to do a mock-up of such an app and have it ready by Wednesday class? We have 2 people so far. We need 4 in order to make this like kind of a legitimate review. 3, we got 3. And we need 1 more if we're going to make this a legitimate review thing. Anybody else feel like they can commit to this? Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be a basic version of this kind of app. Now, again, the app is how to order, like ordering coffee ahead of time from 7-Eleven so that when you arrive, your coffee is ready. Do we have any other takers? You get for sure brownie points for this. The other thing that I'd just like to mention is that if you do this, like this is basically direct practice for the exam. Like the exam question is gonna be almost exactly this, just a different app. All right, good. We got 4 people now. Thank y'all. And what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna be uploading that to the same folder that we're gonna be using today. And then we're going to go over those. We'll go over those in class, and that will give you an idea of exactly the kind of feedback that I'm going to give you on your test. So the people that do it, these 4 people that have volunteered to do it, you will get basically a practice exam and a practice grading for free, which is, I would argue, is a major advantage. All right. So I'll look for those from y'all by Wednesday before class, and we'll go over them during class. That will be our review. And that will give you a good idea of how I'm going to grade and what I expect from this. You don't need to email it to me. You can actually, let me just give you the link of where to put it. Let me get that link real quick. Copy link. All right, I'm going to copy that into the chat. There is the link. I've just put it in the chat. You can put it right there. And again, it's the coffee ordering app. And that's what we'll need. All right. So now we're going to move on to class. We're going to talk about a few things today, but it's not going to be super intense because I know this is a week we're preparing for exams and things like that. What I want to talk about today is a new set of heuristics. So we've talked a lot about Nielsen's heuristics, and that's because I think they are perhaps the best set of heuristics that we have to deal with user experiments. But there are many sets of heuristics that exist. For instance, that help you design user experience. And we've kind of teased some of those, like, UI guidelines and color and font guidelines. All of these things are kind of like this. But there are actually a bunch of sets of, higher level UI guidelines that are a lot like the Nielsen guidelines. For instance, Snyderman's 8 golden rules are similar to the Nielsen rules. They are strive for consistency. And so, you can imagine this is similar to, using the same icons and putting things in the same places, similar to the Nielsen rules. Enabling shortcuts for frequent users. Who can tell me what this is similar to in the Nielsen category? Let me know in the chat. Can anybody think of a rule that this is similar to? What would this map to? Enabling shortcuts for frequent users. Go back and look at the Nielsen rules and let me know which one do you think that's similar to. And let me know in the chat. You guys can do it. I have faith in you. Exactly. Flexibility and efficiency of use. Flexibility of use is you basically want to enable things for expert users, and that is exactly related to flexibility and efficiency of use from the Nielsen ones. Informative feedback after every user action. That's an important thing. You want to give feedback to people so they know what the heck is going on. You want to design dialogues in a way that gives people closure. A dialogue situation should lead towards some resolution, and then you should feel like it's over when the dialogue closes. We should always do error prevention and error handling, so don't let the people get into error situations, and of course, if you do, help them get out of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We should permit easy reversal of actions. What does this remind you of? Permitting easy reversal of actions. What does this remind you that you probably should support in your apps, especially if they're desktop apps? This reminds me of Control Z, the undo action. So you should always have some kind of undo action in your apps. Exactly. And supporting internal locus of control and reducing short-term memory load. Finish out this set of 8 golden rules. Now, what I want to do, since we know a lot about heuristics, I think at this point, we're going to watch just a short kind of silly video about these golden rules to kind of help drive in the details of these specific golden rules. But remember, these are complementary or similar to the Nielsen rules. Let's watch this short video, which just gives us an overview or a silly overview of these rules, and let's see if you guys can kind of get them this way. Check it out.
Hi class, welcome to Math 101. We're going to start with some algebra here. Of course, A plus B equals C. But then if you break this down, you get A times fish minus Q equals to tacos. Now where does this tacos come from? Well, I will tell you these tacos come from. It comes with this quarter note and this eighth note. But this eighth note comes from this giraffe. And how does this all sum up right here? Well, it sums up to the swift brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Hello class, welcome to Math 101. We're going to do some trigonometry here. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And why is there a giraffe on the board? There's no giraffes at Math 101. You guys are crazy.
Hi, can you tell me how to get to the library?
Sure, I'll just write it down for you.
Okay, great, thanks.
Here you go.
Thanks. So how do you get to the library?
It's all written here. It's very clear.
Hi, can you tell me how to get to the library?
Sure. You know what? I'll draw a map for you.
Great, thanks.
Here you go.
Oh, great, thanks. So I just go along here and I'll be there?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, good morning, class. I have your essays marked.
Can we have our marks back?
No. So for today's class. Okay, good morning, class. I have your essays marked. Okay, this one's for you, and this one's for you.
Wow, look at all this feedback.
Uh-huh. Wait, who's that?
Wait a minute, who are you? Where's the Prime Minister? Tune in next week for the stunning conclusion.
No, I need foreclosure. Finally, it's here.
On last week's episode. Wait a minute, who are you? Where's the Prime Minister? And now for the stunning conclusion. I'm just over here to the side.
Wow, best ending ever.
Oh, thank you. I'm so thirsty. Oh my God. What is this? You know how hot this is? I'm gonna sue you. I'm gonna sue everyone here. I want your manager. Oh, thank you. Oh, hot. I never would have known if it wasn't for this label. Whoa, check it out! Woo! Oh, yo, man, come here, check this out.
Whoa, that looks insane.
I know.
Look at that.
I know.
Whoa, wait a minute. Ring of fire.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't like that.
No.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Sorry, boys, no exit.
What do you mean?
Don't make me tap the sign.
I'm scared, man. Me too. Whoa, look at that!
Yeah.
Oh, man, check it out. Look.
Whoa, that looks insane. Oh my god, that ring of fire.
Yeah, I don't know,
Yo,
man.
That's too much.
Yeah.
Let's just go for the teacup.
The teacups sound good, man.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Windows, move documents to folder. I said Windows, move documents to folder. All right, that's it, Windows. Move documents to folder. Windows! Windows, move documents to folder. Thank you, Windows.
All right, this time I'm gonna win.
Well, chance, Lance. Ooh, final combo.
No!
All right, so hopefully that gave you a little bit of an overview of these particular rules. Again, I just wanted to gently introduce these rules to you to let you know that there are other heuristics. I've shown you the ones that I think are the most important, the Nielsen rules, but there are other ones like the Schneiderman's rules, and they are definitely, I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but it's interesting to see some of the same concepts articulated in different ways. For some of you, that might have illustrated these concepts a little bit better. And you should just be aware that different shops, like if you go to different design shops, they might use different rules, right? Like some shops might be really all in on Nielsen's rules. Some might be into Schneiderman's rules. There's other categories of rules that are out there, and we're going to go over some others throughout the rest of the course. You just should be aware that Nielsen's, in my opinion, are the best, but there are other ones out there. Okay, so we're just going to take a quick look at Word versus Notepad today. For instance, Word looks like this. Check it out. look into some of the design of how you work with it. Of course, y'all are familiar with Word. And then contrast it with Notepad++, also a text editing program. So think about the differences between Word and Notepad++. And consider the rules that we just learned and the differences between these two interfaces. And I think I accidentally deleted a slide. So this doesn't make sense. This transition doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. But we're going to also consider the rules that we've just gone over, and we are going to look at these three dialogues. Which of these three dialogues do you think makes the best UX? Which of these three dialogues do you think makes the best UX, considering the rules that we just have gone over and the rules which you already know from the Nielsen rules? Which of these do you think makes the best user experience? There's nearly 40 of you on the chat here, so on the stream here, so I want you to go ahead and give me some votes, more than 5, let's say. Which of these UXs provides the best user experience? All right, y'all wake up out there. There's nearly 40 of you on it. There we go. We're getting some answers. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the correct answer, at least according to me, and that is save file. But I want you to discuss in the chat, why do you think this is the best user experience out of these three things? Why do you think this is the best experience out of these three things? Let me know in the chat, why do you think this is the best experience out of these three things? What makes it a better user experience than, let's say, the subscribe? Any idea why? I think this is the easiest one. Subscribe takes away user control. That's exactly what I'm looking for here. Subscribe takes away user control. It's like you're trying to look at the web page. That's what you're trying to do, and then this stupid subscribe button comes up. Whereas save file is in the flow of what you're doing. Like, you want to save that file, and it gives you a better view of the system that allows you to exactly show where you want to save that file. So in save file, this dialogue is exactly what you want to see. With subscribe, this dialogue is exactly what you don't want to see. So you lose user control. It's difficult to exit. Y'all are definitely on the right page. And I believe this one's a little too small to show you exactly what's going on here, but bank details typically, or any kind of like long form, they typically make a lot of mistakes on like user input validation and feedback on your form, and like making certain fields required that aren't really required. So again, save file is giving you better control and things like that. Okay, so before class, I asked you to download the Weather Channel app, and this is just a little quick practice on kind of for the test a little bit. What do you think is wrong with the Weather Channel app that you have hopefully downloaded onto your phone? I have already downloaded it. I'm going to be looking at it too to see if I like your answers. This app makes me crazy. That's why I chose it, because it's so crazy. So check it out. Download it if you haven't got a chance to download it. And then tell me, what do you think is wrong with the Weather Channel app according to Snyderman's rules and or really any kind of user experience rules. What do you think is wrong with the Weather Channel app? I imagine that the UX is a little bit different between the Android and iPhone version, but I don't know. I only have the Android version. And the Android version is trash, in my opinion. All right, and again, there's nearly 40 of you right here on the stream. Yep, exactly. I like what I'm seeing. Yep. And so ads, I'm on the fence as to whether ads are actually like bad or not. I mean, you need to have ads sometimes to support your app or whatever. But I like the idea of like we're getting non-weather content in there. So I want to look at the weather. That's probably all I want to look at, or mainly what I want to look at. And I'm seeing news stories. That to me, that's really off topic. Having to scroll to get all the weather information is really annoying. You want to have the most important things right there in the middle. Yeah, it doesn't show the most important info where it should be. It has some weird news feeds. It uses exactly what we were just talking about. It has this like you often will get a full screen ad and it says go premium, like, and that's really like a subscribe button where it's like really disconcerting. And for those of you on Android, I'm pretty sure that Apple One does the same thing, but what do y'all think about the idea of having a news feed for weather information? Do you think that's the right way to present weather information? And I'd also like for you to check out. Can you see this? I don't think it's going to show properly because I got my filter in. So there is in mine, at the very center of the app, there is an hourly forecast, and you can scroll left and right on the hourly forecast. I want everybody to try scrolling left and right on the hourly forecast. Tell me what you think of that interaction, scrolling left and right on the hourly forecast. What do you think of that? And you can let me know in the chat. Anybody got any thoughts on the left and right scrolling on that hourly forecast? Mine scrolls a little bit more than yours, apparently, because my phone is maybe skinnier. I am very, yeah, I think it's not clear that you can scroll at all. Some people's only scrolling up and down. That's interesting. If you're in the Android one and you have a skinny enough phone, you can scroll left and right on the hourly forecast. The reason I want to bring that up is because it's an awkward thing to do, scrolling left and right on your phone when it's in portrait mode, which is the normal phone mode. And I saw a lot of this in the putt-putt apps that y'all are turning in. So I want you just to be aware. Just interact with that left to right scrolling and tell me what you think of that. That's often not a good way to go. It's very easy to scroll up and down, but it's not that easy to scroll left and right. Okay, just a side point. Now, we wanted to talk about those heuristics, which we just talked about today, and now we want to talk about two things that are very important kind of subtopics. They're very kind of small topics, but they're important to talk about when you talk about UI. layout is one of them. So what do I mean by that? Layout is really just a combination of structure and style. And it's kind of like where you put the things on the screen, how you relate the different things to each other. You can do things like grouping within a layout. You can put information that is related together into a single group, and that is something you can do related to layout. You can order the things either within the group or just in general, order the things on your screen, and that conveys some type of meaning. You can decorate things. So often you'll see like a mail icon with like a plus or a number at the upper right. That's what we would call decorating. You can decorate things with information to indicate like new mail. You can and should align things. One of the things I noticed in the apps that have been turned in so far, I know there are MVPs, but alignment seems to be a lost art. You want to align things because people's brains want to align things, and if you don't have them aligned, it just messes with your mind. And you'll want to think about how you use white space, not just randomly use white space. So you got to think about the spacing of things actually changes how you interpret it. So these seem like very simple things, and they are very simple things, but these are the tools that you have in terms of layout to convey meaning to your user. The ones that I saw, again, in the apps that y'all turned in that were weird is white. Like I saw a weird use of white space. I would see a button very high up and then a button very like relatively low down, and that would be like the main thing on the screen. It's two buttons like new game or start game, and they would be like randomly kind of high and randomly kind of low, and the seemingly random spacing just makes your brain think, I don't know what's going on here. I would think that maybe you would want to actually group these things very closely together, maybe just have those buttons in the middle of the screen. I mean, look at the layout, how they do bullets in this. This is a Mentimeter and how they do bullets. Everything is close and in the middle, and then there's lots of white space around it. That makes more sense than having one random thing up here and one random thing down here. So think about how you use white space, think about how you group things together, and for sure think about how you align things. Again, these are all aligned. In a lot of the prototypes I saw, things would be jagged and not aligned, and that really, again, messes with your mind. I know that these were MVPs. So let's talk about grouping. That's an easy one. What items do you think could be grouped of these? And I'll give it away that there is more than one correct answer. What items do you think could be grouped together in a UI? All right, and good. We are getting answers on these first three, which is exactly what I was hoping you guys and gals would get. We are grouping things that make sense to go together, like OK and cancel, like name, street, city, and zip code, or menu items. These things can be grouped. You can't just group everything together, and you can't group random things together. Seems like it would be straightforward, but that happens quite a lot. Now, one thing I want to do is just illustrate these really quickly. I'll just use this. So for instance, what do we mean by grouping? Well, one way you could draw buttons. I'm not very good at drawing with this. Hold on, let me use my... All right, let's say we had buttons. Here is one way I've seen buttons used on an app. I was just looking at submissions earlier today. What do you think about that versus Here's another way that could possibly be done. Again, the drawing is not great, but you know, if you put those two things close together and maybe even in the center, does that look better or worse? Which looks better or worse? I know they both look awesome in terms of drawing. Let me know in the chat, which do you think looks better or worse, left or right? Left or right? Anybody else have an opinion, left or right? Which looks better? Good. What am I using on the right to make the right one look better? Does anybody know? I'm not just using grouping. I'm using other things. What else has been used? There are things from here. What have I used to make that one look a little better? Alignment. So here they are aligned, or at least I was trying to align here. They are kind of like, well, I was trying to make them misaligned. So imagine this was like misaligned. And this is directly from a UI that I have seen today that somebody's turned in, whereas these are aligned. I've also used white space, like having a big white space here and here is better than having white space in between it here and here and here, which doesn't make sense to me. Like, why are these things so separated when they are similar buttons? And yeah, so I used alignment, white space, and grouping in order to communicate those ideas. I'm gonna reload real quick. And the other one I wanted to mention is decoration. So you may not know what I meant by decoration, so I wanted to show you. Imagine you have an icon like this. This is a mail icon. Decoration usually happens when there's like a circle up here and then there's either a plus or like a number here. And this circle would be colored in so you could actually see my number. But when you didn't have mail, it would look like this. No mail, no icon here. But then when you do have mail, you have icon here, and this is called decoration. And this is a trick that you're going to be using a lot in layout. It conveys information without putting a number. Like the alternative would be put a number beside it, and that takes up a lot more space and doesn't convey much information, right? So this is perhaps a better way to do layout. All right, so those are the layout concepts I wanted you to get. We're going to skip that for today because we're kind of running out of time. And I wanted to also talk about flow. Okay, so flow in your app is another important thing that we haven't talked about yet. It's again one of these kind of micro topics that we need to talk about. Now, what do I mean by flow? The flow of your app is kind of top to bottom, bottom to top, left to right, right to left. Oops. And it determines how the user kind of looks with his eyes through your app. For instance, if you've ever checked out on Amazon, you know their flow is kind of from top to bottom, and you flow down until you finish everything and you can hit checkout. But it's not just in web forms, which web forms you kind of typically tend to be top to bottom. It actually happens quite a bit in things like dialogues and stuff on your computer or on your phone. For instance, here, the ordering is like this. You might need to push the add button back over here, back over here, back over here, back over here. You'll notice that it is top to bottom and left to right. So it's very typical, like as you would read kind of flow. But that's not always the case. If you were designing for, people that were writing and speaking Mandarin, you may design things slightly differently because maybe their default flow is not exactly the same as Western default flow. So the flow on how you go through your form or your UI is something that you're going to need to take into account. Another thing you need to take into account is hierarchy. So here we have an example of an app, well, really just a screen, and it has it has 1, 2 top level groupings. And this is kind of an implicit top level grouping because it's 3 things that are the same. So I would argue that it has 1, 2, 3 top level groupings. Within those, this top level grouping has 3 subdivisions, and this top level grouping has 1, 2, 3, 4 subdivisions, and this one just has 1. Now, thinking about this hierarchy, which is how you'll lay things out quite often, it's another layout thing. How deep can you nest hierarchy before it gets confusing? And let me show you what I mean. Like, this is 1, 2, 3 levels of hierarchy. So, and this is just 1, 2. Well, kind of a third implicit one, and this one is basically 1, 2. So how many levels of hierarchy can you nest containers before it gets confusing? All right, and there's nearly 40 of you on the stream here, so I'm going to let you have just a minute to think about it. And that's right. I would agree that it is 1 to 2. I want you to look back at this example, okay? This 1, 2, 3 already to me looks very confusing. And this 1, 2 with the implicit 3 looks very confusing. Really, the only one that is clean is 1, 2. You know, having some content inside of, one level of hierarchy, 1 to 2 levels of hierarchy, I think is quite reasonable. If you start getting into 3 or more, it gets to be really clunky looking and not something that I would recommend doing. So 1 or 2. Another thing that you'll notice related to layout is when you start doing things in a hierarchy, there are tricks to make it less confusing. Who can see a problem with this? You can see there's groupings here and there's groupings here. Does anybody see a potential problem with the way this website is laid out, and especially related to hierarchy? Let me know in the chat if you can spot this definitely has a problem. You see any hierarchy related problems with the way this is laid out? I'll give you a hint. Every web page is like a scroll bar inside a scroll bar. All right, this whole web page is, of course, scrollable. And then if you look inside of this, which is like a sub hierarchy, so this whole thing is a big box, and then each of these is a smaller box. Right here, a smaller box, and this is just one big box, let's say, with a few smaller boxes inside. The problem is that we have a scroll box inside of a scrollable page. So a scroll inside a scroll, that is very confusing to users. Who knows how to fix this? What would you do instead of this? You don't want to have a scroll inside of a scroll. That's bad. What would you do instead? Exactly. Show more button is exactly what we would want to do. Of course, people like, I don't know if this is Amazon or not, but this is some better website, and you can see there is more selections here, but the way to get to them is to press a more button, not to have some kind of weird scroll bar. Okay, so we don't want to have scroll inside a scroll. That is very confusing and awkward. So we have this, which is basically a collapse and expand thing. It is show more or not. Great. Now, there's a few layout tricks which we're going to talk about here just to help get your layouts right. You can do things like reduce the amount of information you're showing. That is a very important trick. You definitely want to reduce things. You can use regularity as a way to make layout make more sense. You know, if you have a bunch of similar items like we've seen on some of these pages, that really helps people interpret what they're looking at. And of course, you can use white space. All right. So what would you, yeah, I want to look at this right here. What would you think to do to redesign this utility? This is a bulk rename utility. What tricks would you use to redesign this to make it better? How would you redesign this? And you can, I think you can enter things into Minty right here. Let me know, how would you redesign this? How would you redesign this? Okay. So with this one, it is so bad that I would recommend using every trick in the book. Okay. I would make containers collapsible if possible, just like we talked about on the web pages. I would look at a typical find replace control and copy it, and I would absolutely reduce functionality. One trick that is underutilized is reducing functionality. Something like this, like the majority of the options are never ever going to be used. At least reducing functionality on the main page is a very important tool in a user experience toolbox in order to make something that actually can be used by users. Somebody is asking, what is the find replace functionality? That's just a typical Control F kind of functionality, like in a web page or on a Word document. Check it out if you're not, if you're not familiar with that, check it out. Regularity is something else you're going to want to look into. Like, for instance, you're going to follow consistency, put the OK on the similar side. I'm going to have to go through these. Using white space is another thing you're going to want to look into in terms of making it easy for people to understand. Here are some nice apps in terms of using white space. You can see like it's an icon with a little bit of space in between that and that. But you can see those are all kind of grouped together in the center, and then there's a nice amount of white space before the bottom. So what I wanted to talk about today was mainly just these new heuristics, just the fact that new heuristics exist. I wanted to talk about very briefly layout and layout, grouping, and hold on a sec. I'm getting and hierarchy. Yeah, and flow. Flow was the other thing I wanted to just touch on today. So these things, layout and flow, how you flow through your diagram and how you lay out your diagram, is super related. These are just little micro topics. Again, these will not be on the test. I just wanted to touch on them today. We are on Wednesday. We're going to study for the test by looking at the 4 people that agreed to do the mock-ups. Again, the mock-ups on how to order coffee from 7-Eleven, so that they'll have it ready when you get there. And now that's the official end of lecture. I'm going to go ahead and answer any questions that I get here, and we're going to wrap up class. Somebody asked, are we allowed to use elements from the Figma community like icons and pre-made search bars and stuff? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great way to make your mock-up look even cooler. Absolutely. Somebody saying, I see. So can we take that as a focus on functionality and layout, but add colors and styling if you have time? Yes, this is a perfect articulation of what I would do. So focus on functionality and layout in terms of the mock-up that you're going to be doing on Friday. Those are the most important by far. Functionality and layout. and you add colors and styling if you have time. Remember, functionality and layout will be a much more important part of things. But if you have time and you feel comfortable with your functionality and layout, you can add some colors, and that might help you out if they look cool. Yes, you can delete the weather app channel now. That app, I will be doing the same. I hate that app, and I recommend you do delete it. I just install it briefly every year as an example of an app that is not well designed, and they haven't corrected it yet. Yeah, so I need to update the syllabus. Sorry about that. We are not having any deliverable this week on the project. No deliverable on the project this week. No deliverable on the project. There's no deliverable on the project this week. Somebody's asking, can more than 4 people make the coffee thing for review next class? Absolutely, you can. The 4 people that spoke up are the people that I will try and go through. I'll try and go through theirs first because they volunteered to do it. But anybody else that wants to, you upload it to that same thing, and I will probably go through all of them, assuming that it's only a reasonable number of them up there. Somebody's asking, are we going to lose points if we don't have coloring plus style in the exam? They are recommended but not required. So you won't lose points. You will lose points if the overall product looks bad. But if you don't make it to coloring and and styling, you probably won't lose points. It's really, you just want to turn in a product that is professional. That's kind of what we're going for here in the end. Turn in a professional looking mock-up and you'll be just fine. Okay, so I don't like horizontal scrolling, but I would like to see this example of this app. So I personally don't like it, but I won't hold my personal tendencies against you, especially in a test. So, you can use it. It doesn't actually violate any of the rules. Just be careful how you use it and make sure it's like a natural thing to use. So I'm not going to take off points for that, but it's not like you'll notice in your own usage of your phone, like it is used occasionally, but it's not like something that's used all the time. So just be careful when you find yourself doing a horizontal scrolling. Be careful. It's not the most common thing. Kind of like a consistency thing. All right, I gotta head on to the next meeting. I hope you all have a good day, and I will see y'all on Wednesday. Take it easy.